Great to have you here. Take two with Jerry and Debbie getting started here on this Thursday broadcast of the program. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani and you, and we look forward to you taking today's topic again and making it a great, very impactful broadcast. And you can start dialing now, and then we'll lay out the topic for you. It's 833-288-3986. Hello, Debbie.
Hello, Jerry. This is going to be an interesting show, and we got Ryan on the phone, so we know we have him in a great position to answer your call. Please call in as we introduce this topic. It'll take just a couple minutes just so we can kind of set the table and have you come and join the conversation at 833-288-3986. And Jerry, we titled it "The Pride Goes Before a Fall." Why don't you explain for our listeners what we're looking for?
Well, yeah, what I thought I would do, we do this occasionally. I'll just read the little blurb, the write-up on the take2show.com website that I put up there yesterday, because we want to talk about pride. It's good to be proud of something. For example, if you're proud to be Catholic, not in a boastful way, but in just a very, very proud way is the only way I know how to put that. But the sin of pride goes all the way back to the creation of man and woman. The angels were tested as well, and those who would not serve God based that unfortunate decision on pride. And I mentioned there is a healthy form of pride, like being proud to be Catholic. That's quite different from the dangerous type of pride that leads people to do all sorts of horrible things. And the question for you today, is there a rise in pridefulness in our world today? Is there a do we see pride in play in people's lives, decisions, behaviors, what they say, what they do? That's the question, Debbie, for today.
In my humble opinion, yes, yes, and yes. A rise in pride. One of the 7 deadly sins, or capital sins, pride is, it's really one of those tough things that sometimes it takes somewhat of maybe even a public humiliation to get one to realize that their pride is really leading how they conduct themselves. And it's really a very tough sin. And as Jerry mentioned, pride being the fall of the angels, pride being the fall of man. And we deal with it all the time. That's why it is such a dangerous sin. So we're talking about the sin of pride today, and tell us, you don't have to out yourself and say, hey, I was prideful and then this happened, and then I learned, a real healthy sense of humility, which is a strength, which is a wonderful virtue. And, but maybe just your idea of what you think pride is and how it kind of creeps into every little corner of our lives. So the number to dial is 1-833-288-3986. Okay.
Now is the best time to call. The lines are open at the start of the program every day. Ryan is awaiting, and he will pick up your calls right away at 833-288-3986. Just some examples, Debbie, and I'd love to invite you, the Take Two family, if you see examples of pride in people's lives. This isn't to point a finger at them and say, look at that prideful person, but just, we see a lot of, definitely politicians, Debbie. I would say a lot of politicians, they go about their work and they pass laws and bills and so forth that are against God and against the faith and so forth, and they just feel supremely in control of things, and maybe talking about the attack on the family, the attack on the unborn children and so forth. So that's one area where I think pride kind of sneaks in there, and people are just not really all that humble sometimes.
Well, you're talking in politicians in general, from the local level all the way up to the federal. And I would agree with you. If you notice, when was the last time you saw a politician, admit that they were wrong about something? It's always pointing the finger, blaming somebody else, justifying their position, doubling down. I mean, that's the new thing right now. He doubled down. It's like I'm going to stay in this prideful place because I know I'm right and you are wrong. Interesting about that. Let's really, and it goes across the board. It's even I think even some people in high positions in the secular world. I think that there's a problem there, with pridefulness. Even sometimes people in the parish level, even let's face it, even maybe some clergy or the hierarchy of the church, there can be some prideful, feelings that kind of creep in, and you can just sense them as you see people making statements that come across, and you think to yourself, how you can always, this is my personal humble opinion, how you can always kind of identify a prideful statement is it comes across so strong, so definite, and it's so rigid in a sense where it tends to attack. And when you sense that deep in your spirit, the antennas go up, and I think to myself, that's really a prideful kind of statement, So it's good to always be alert and aware that pride is definitely playing a factor these days, and not to pick on anybody. I mean, we don't want to fill the phone lines with everybody, calling out a politician or a bishop or anything like that. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to say how it just weaves its way into every aspect of our lives. Wouldn't you say that, Jerry?
Oh, yeah. Well, pride is at the root of all of our sins, and we all do sin. So maybe you have had a struggle with pride, and you want to mention that. I certainly have. A lot of people do. I remember St. Paul in his earlier writings, he would talk to him about himself. I think he used the term super apostle or something, and then by the end of his writings, you see a very different St. Paul. So here's a general question. How do we conquer pride in our lives? If we have pride welling up within us, and we think that we are something extra special, or that we have all the answers or something like that, how do we conquer that? How do we conquer that very difficult root of pride in our lives? 833-288-3986 is the number to call. Very important conversation. We hope that you will join in.
Mm-hmm. And I have some information, some updates on that attack in the church in Sicily. And then also today's the National Day of Prayer and Fasting. We just got a text. Father John Ricardo, today's the National Day of Prayer and Fasting. I want to make mention of that. Also, too, Jerry, I'll share, too, how, you go through a divorce, you go through problems with your children, pride goes right out the window. Public humiliation, it definitely cures pride. Okay, where are we going? We'll be right back.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
We've started doing these shows. Call in if you're an atheist. Call in if you want to redefine marriage. Those are the kind of shows that make very engaging radio. We're going to continue to try to reach out to the fringes and find those people who fundamentally disagree with us. And we're going to continue to create shows that are going to reach out to those people to draw them in to the fullness of the truth.
Catholic Answers Live, tonight, 6 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hi, Take Two family. Jerry and I are so excited about the launch of Stand Tall, our new ministry designed just for you. Please visit standtalltoday.com and take a look at all the resources, devotionals, and services we have provided to assist you on your spiritual journey. Feeling stuck? Or maybe you feel like you're moving backwards? Let us help you take another look at life and make great strides toward being the person both you and God want you to be. Learn more at standtalltoday.com.
The best way we can pray is to be still before God. The Catechism says, why did God make me? God made me to know Him, love Him, and serve Him. And then Psalm 46, verse 10 says, be still and know that I am God. So the most important part of prayer is listening. So you say your prayers, but make sure every day you give at least a few seconds of listening so God can tell you what He wants of you. And your life will be changed forever.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. It is so good to have you with us. We love when you tune in and join the program by calling in with your takes. Today we're talking about pride, pridefulness, and how we overcome that. Humiliations, as Debbie said, are often the remedy for that. But if you have some thoughts on this, call 833-288-3986. Just a quick programming note that Father Spitzer's Universe is Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Father answers questions on reason, faith, suffering, virtue, the existence of God, and many more. And this week, Father Spitzer talks about what is so special about the Catholic Church. And I know he'll have a lot of great things to say, Debbie. That's Friday night, 8 p.m. on many of these same EWTN stations.
Okay, so please call in and talk about pride today. We want to hear from you at 833-288-3986. And Jerry, if I can just give a couple updates. First of all, Trustful Surrender, our book, Stories of Grace Amidst Crisis, is selling quite nicely on EWTNRC.com. Thank you to the Take-Two family who bought it. I know some of you bought multiple copies. You are going to give them away as stocking stuffers. You took our recommendation. I'm doing the same thing. I just ordered 7, and so I'm going to order some more, and I'm excited about it. It's a great book. That's what everybody's getting. So if you're listening, all my friends and family, if you're listening to the show, you're getting that for Christmas. I'll sign it though. How's that?
Spoil the secret.
Not that they care.
Yeah, right.
Not that they care. They could care less. But okay. So the other thing I want to share real quickly, Jerry, is that yesterday, we were doing Sacred Heart Radio's pledge drive in the Seattle area. It's going quite well. Thank you so much for those that have been praying about it and pledging. And thank you. And when your local listening area comes to you, please make sure you step it up and make a pledge. But I had shared yesterday on air about a couple days ago in Sicily, the church, St. Agatha's, was vandalized. People broke in, they broke the tabernacle, they took the hosts out of the consecrated hosts out of the tabernacle, smashed them on the floor, threw them all over the place, so they desecrated the hosts. They broke up statues. They also, there was a statue, and it looks like an incorrupt body. So it looks like if you're just approaching into the church, you would probably assume it was St. Agatha. She's buried somewhere else, but there's relics there. But there's a statue that's enclosed in glass, and they broke that. So they broke that glass enclosure. They broke off the statue's arm and everything. And so it looks like it could. There was misinformation that it was saying that was the incorrupt body. It was not. It was a statue. But, nevertheless, it was horrible, horrific. And I understand today the people of Sicily are just in complete shock. It was so just incredibly disturbing and horrible and demonic of what they did to this beautiful church. So that's the update. Please pray for the fine folks in Sicily. I actually have distant relatives there. And so, I'm sure they're probably, it's kind of a small, tight, island.
Sure.
And I'm sure it does shock, sends shock throughout the island. So anyway, another one. So this is a regular occurrence, is this hatred for God? Is this a sense of pride, of all sorts of, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care if it hurts what you believe or anything. This is really dangerous. And I just wanted to add that the Catechism of the Catholic Church references it talks about the deadly sins, the capital sins. But paragraph 1931, if you'd like to read that, paragraph 2094, read that as well. There's also like 7 more paragraphs on pride, but it's really healthy for us, I think, to read the Catechism to understand better how it applies to our lives and how we view it. So just maybe check it out in the Catechism. Okay.
Yeah, well, one real clear example comes to mind. This is not to pick on any one particular athlete, but it wasn't that long ago, Debbie. Well, it's been a while now, probably 20, 30, 40 years. Say a football player would score a touchdown and they'd walk over and politely hand the football to the referee. Now, look what we have. We have the whole team gets together, and they have worked on choreographing these celebrations. And I'm not saying anything against celebrating a touchdown, but the players sometimes it's to draw the attention upon themselves. We have, by contrast, we have players who make the sign of the cross and point to heaven. So how much of that is possibly pride, and how much of that is just really celebrating a touchdown with your fellow teammates and holding your arms in the air and saying, "Hey, look at me!" Is there how much of that is either one of those? 833-288-3986.
I'm not trying to preach or anything, but I just want to say this from a religious education standpoint. I share this a lot with junior high, high schools age, and young adults. This idea of pride, and it's interesting. When we really process the idea that God gives us these amazing abilities and blessings and all sorts of things to be used for the glory of God. When we realize where it comes from, how we are the vessels, we are the ones utilizing it for the glory of God, it balances that out. When we think, I am special, I am talented, I am, the strongest, the greatest, there's a real false sense there, and we take God out of it. So when God is in the center of everything we do, we know we have a recipe for success and eternal success, right, Jerry? But when we pull God out and we make it about man, okay, and I've done this myself, it fails. Anyone who has gone through a divorce or problems with your children, I said this before the break, you know what I'm talking about. The public scrutiny, the humiliation, everything is torn apart. There's not an ounce of pride left when you've gone through a divorce. And my divorce was very public in my town, in my area where I live. It was humiliating beyond belief. Pride went right out the window. But with pride going out the window came an awesome sense of freedom in knowing that I am not in control. God's in control. Everything comes from God. Everything goes back to God. And with that, there was an incredible interior strength that I was able to develop that I didn't have before, Jerry. When I was married before, I will tell you, I could have easily felt I was groomed to be, to go into possibly run for our, to be the mayor of our town, and I was heading in that direction, and maybe, who knows, maybe, I'm never is divorce good. God hates divorce, never. But, out of it came some, heightened virtue, I think, through that humiliation.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's one of the ways that God keeps us humble, and that is by allowing us, as Debbie said, to go through humiliating things. Have you experienced humiliations in your life? Do you have, as St. Paul said, to keep him from getting puffed up, he had a thorn in his flesh? Do you have a thorn in your flesh? You don't have to reveal what it is. But I certainly have my thorns. I like to sometimes say, Debbie, I have a thorn bush, with more than, like 1,000 thorns sometimes. But this is God's ways of keeping us humble are very, very beautiful, sometimes very, very painful. So the number is 833-288-3986.
And I just want to mention this. We also do the wonderful pledge drive, and it's coming up in October for Cleveland, The Rock. And a lot of those who are listening on The Rock, you listen to Take Two, and it's one of your favorite, your go-to shows, and we just thank you for that. Their chaplain is Father Doug Brown, and we work together on air for the pledge drives. And when I first met him, I was so impressed by just his heart, his spirituality. And I would say, Father, that's incredible. Father, that's amazing. And he would say, Debbie, keep me humble. Debbie, keep me humble. And it was a joke, and I'd giggle and laugh. But I started to adopt it. I started to have that sense to constantly remind ourselves that it's not about us. Take the spotlight off of us and put it to where it belongs, and that is to God. And it is a constant practice because we do struggle, I think, with the human condition of the sin of pride, not to mention all the other, capital sins that we all struggle with. So, isn't that interesting, Jerry? So I do go back to, sometimes we have to really work at it to stay away from it.
Yeah, and it's very easy to not see ourselves slipping into pride, because it could be so subtle, and it could be gradual, and pretty soon, we think that we're humble, and actually we're being rather prideful. So let's see what our listeners have to say about this.
Yeah.
Join us in this conversation at 833-288-3986. Ann called first, listening to Guadalupe Radio Network in Virginia. Hi, Ann. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Answering the call. I wanted to, this was something I talked to a spiritual director too, and he was such a great educator, and he mentioned how the monks were taught, and I thought it was very enriching. And he just said, of all the capital sins, like 4 of them are very obvious. So maybe gluttony, lust, anger, and sloth, like you can see them, so you know them when you see them in yourself or others, but the others are a little bit less visible, and sometimes they're even far harder to get rid of, like greed or avarice. But like the worst of all and the root of all of them is pride, and that helped me see like it's all pride, really. So all of us are prideful. And, the way he looked at it, I think the monks were educated like that. So it's fatherhudgens.com if you want to watch any of his. He's from the Arlington Diocese, Hudgin, and he's wonderful. But he just has podcasts on this for everyone because it's difficult to have spiritual direction. But it helps you see, like, all through the Gospels, you see, like the Pharisees and Sadducees, as well as regular people, we're all suffering from pride, really, but it has different looks to it. But I think it's our trouble to the end, and only 1 in millions are really free of it, like Mother Teresa. So it kind of gives you that sense of course, we are pride-filled, but with the sacraments and the sanctifying graces, we have moments of healing, only sometimes to trip again. But they're all kind of rooted in that invisible one. The most invisible is pride. So anyway, and as he said, as you grow through, with spiritual direction, you may remove some of the ones that you're less angry, or even greed, you're more generous. But the pride one actually is there almost all the time. That's what they told the monks. And I think that's true. So it's always giving us a reason to find humility and humiliations as a gift.
And beautiful comments. You have great insights on this. And I'm glad you mentioned the monks, because I was going to refer to the great spiritual writers in the history of the church, even the Desert Fathers, those who just got away from everything and everyone, basically, and lived pretty much a life of solitude. And they would write about their lives and write holy spiritual things. And it's amazing how many of them talk about their pride. And you would think, well, there's no one around to be prideful in front of, or, and certainly don't want to be prideful in front of God. But they would talk about that a lot, and how very, very difficult that is to root out once it really becomes, a big thing in somebody's life. And I mean, the Bible is just so full of verses about pride. James 4:10, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will lift you up. So good insights from Ann, Debbie, I think.
I totally agree, Anne. Thank you so much for bringing that to start the conversation. And you're so right. When you're looking at the deadly sins or the capital sins, there's so many you can make an assessment about by just looking at and seeing it firsthand. But pride is much more. It's disguised in so many ways, and it comes through speech. But when it comes through speech, it comes, in my opinion, it comes through twisted speech. And what I mean by that is the speech, the talk that comes at you from someone that may be very puffed up in their ego. It sounds like it feels good, right? It feels good, but when you peel back the layers of it, you can really pinpoint that it's centering towards a prideful nature. And I think that's why it's important. I did spiritual direction for many years. I was a spiritual director for many years. And I will tell you, I always tell people, really, critically look at what you're absorbing in images and in words. Very important. You have to always stay alert, because we can feel like we can fall into in that same boat of pride, right? Because it sounds good, it feels good, and we're like, that's okay. And we start to go with that because it's so easily for us to do as our fallen nature. So that's what you're tapping into as well, Anne. So thank you for that. What did you think about what Jerry and I just shared?
Beautiful, beautiful. The only last thing is, I don't think I'm explaining it as well, because a priest should explain it, but the last one, pride, it could be actually in your words and actions or in your mind. And that's the thing. It's not always evident. And that's why I think, like you were describing, Jerry, the monks knew in their mind they were prideful, even though externally they didn't look that way. And that's why it's a constant, I honestly think, until we meet our Lord and, are purified and, probably sometime in purgatory, all of us, the time when we're in heaven will be free of it. But it's not to be downtrodden, but it's like why you should always go to confession monthly, that kind of thing. Thanks so
absolutely.
much. God bless.
Thank you, Ann. God bless you. Have a beautiful day in Virginia. Carolyn is up next in Brownsville, Texas. We got Maria in San Antonio. And you could call 833-288-3986 and get in on this conversation about pride.
Father Mitch Pacwa.
Sin does not unite people, doesn't bring them together. Sin causes division and divides people up.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
More individuals with Down syndrome are being mainstreamed into society. This includes secondary education that increases their options for employment. This fall, Ivy Tech Community College in Indiana is launching a pilot program called Ivy Power for students with Down syndrome. Gabby Campbell and Treasure Lehman are excitedly looking forward to the classes. I jumped up and down, said Treasure. Gabby was certain of her success, stating, I make friends wherever I go. Each student will have a mentor in the classroom, and I expect the regular students will learn as much from the experience as the Ivy Power kids. Gabby's interested in English and business classes. Treasure hopes to land a job at a daycare or preschool. Let's pray for them both.
Like us on Facebook at Life Issues and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
Now there's a fast and easy way to get in touch with EWTN. The EWTN Everything number. Call 1-800-447-EWTN to get the latest information on programming, special events, pilgrimages, and more. Our EWTN Family Viewer Services representatives are ready to help you with whatever your needs may be. The EWTN Everything number. 1-800-447-EWTN. EWTN.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. If you just don't understand something about the Catholic faith, Call to Communion is the show for you. Join us Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I'm Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani, and Jeff Burson is engineering today and producing, and also pulling up your social media comments for us, which you can post on our YouTube and Facebook feeds. And Ryan Penny is on the calls, taking your calls right now at 833-288-3986. Pride goes before a fall. We were talking about the sin of pride, and there is a healthy kind of pride, I believe, being proud to be Catholic, for example, or proud of your family heritage, or proud of your high school or your college or whatever. But this is a little different form of pride that we're talking about today. So we hope that you will join us, as Carolyn has in Brownsville, Texas, listening on EWTN.com. Hi, Carolyn. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
The concern I have that I, am worried that I fall into more often than I'd like to admit is the false humility or the pride that is disguised as maybe a false humility. And I can't, off the top of my head, maybe this is my pride, come up with a personal example, but the ones that come to mind are these football players that take the knee on the field and, talk about that they're just humbly making a protest when really they're basically flipping the bird at the military and at ordinary Christian people. And at first, the commissioner of the NFL was pretty firm with them, but now he's completely gone back on what he said, and he's saying, "Oh, we were wrong," and making it appear this mea culpa, really humble thing. But to me, it looked more like he was, trying to project an image of, being woke. I think it's called virtue signaling sometimes. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how we could safeguard against doing that in our own lives, and just what other examples of that you've maybe seen or experienced.
Well, Carolyn, I would love to address that because, you go to the lives of the saints, okay, and you look at real humility and how they always pointed to God. They always recognized God in their journey. They lived for God. They lived for getting to heaven and in union with God, and to bring as many souls to heaven as well. And that was their agenda, if you will. And then I look at what the agenda is of all these other organizations out there in our world, in our culture. And, there's, let's just face it, there's rarely a mention about God and about what God would want. As a matter of fact, there's a real, people get really, they bristle at the thought of you bringing God into the conversation. What does God have to do with this? This is a decision we as man are making. We are educated and we are advanced. And it's really a shame, because when you do that, you expose your human agenda, and you're absolutely correct. It can get disguised in this false sense of humility, like, oh, we're doing such a great thing for humanity, when in reality, you're doing a great thing for your pocketbook. You're doing a great thing. It all stems back to some kind of monetary, gain. So it's really unfortunate. I think we've lost the ability to critically think. We go along with little sound bites. We go along with little snippets of information, and we believe it just because it's been said to us. And we've lost the ability to dive deeper and to realize that when you spot the part where God is missing, there you go. There's where, when God's missing, there's sin. It's just the way it works. So that's my take on it. I just think it's time for, all of us as Catholic Christians to really kind of wake up and look at things critically and really see if this is what God would want for us. What do you think, Carolyn?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you said that, the first thing that jumped out at me is that old line, don't push your religious views on me. You're entitled to your opinion, but don't bring your religious views into it, because then you're pushing it on me. And for some reason, it's okay to push non-religious views, which can be their own religion. But if God is brought up, then people do get accused of being proud. Oh, look at you! Look at the big Christian. So it's not very easy. It's not very clear what the path is.
Right. Well, you bring up something so important, though, and that is false humility. It's easy to fall into. For example, you get a compliment, you have a great singing voice, or you look very handsome today, or you did so well in the game the other day, and the temptation sometimes is no, I'm not, and that's a false humility, because humility is simply acknowledging what is true, and God gives everyone gifts. Every one of us has gifts that are given by God. We need to be grateful, but not deny the gifts. So, but not let them get us puffed up either. And as Bob Dylan once sang, it could be the devil, it could be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. So, let's all strive for that humility.
Yeah, that's I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's an excellent point. I need to go get that record.
Right. If you got a computer, you can find it easily probably on YouTube.
Right. Thanks, Carolyn. Thank you so much. We appreciate your call today. Jerry, I just want to share something real quickly. I don't want to get into the specifics of it because it's a town next to where I live here in Arizona. But I remember there was this real big public campaign of trying to push this project on the community. And if you looked at all the details of the whole proposal, you just could spot right away that it wasn't healthy to live near this so-called project that they were doing in the town. It wasn't good for kids to be near it, and yet they were building houses around it. They were building schools around it, and you just knew. You said, this is dangerous. This isn't right. This isn't good for man, right? And I remember them getting on the news, the local news, constantly pushing it on us, Jerry, constantly saying, this is great. It's going to bring all these jobs. It's going to be this. And in the back of your mind, you're going, yeah, but it's going to hurt little kids. They shouldn't be near this. And, interestingly enough, if you traced the proposal and you traced it back a couple years, you found out that the person that was pushing it was a council member who sat on the board of this project and stood to gain millions from it. Millions. Isn't that interesting? So I don't think sometimes when somebody is pushing it, saying this is so good for you, this is why I say, please investigate. Please look at things and trace the money, and you'll see the agenda. God is very good at revealing. Wouldn't you say this, Jerry? Isn't God good at revealing what the hidden agenda is?
Yeah. What does it say? Something like that in the Bible. What is hidden will be made known. And it can be an ugly thing, kind of like what you were just describing there. But yeah, the truth is going to come out, and people are going to be embarrassed, hopefully maybe a little bit humbled by these things. But some people take the exposition of their actions like this and just double down, as they might say, and just try to even go more aggressively after it. So yeah, I agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Please join in on this conversation. Tell us what you think about pride, how we can uncover it, how we can, change it, fix it, diminish it, what works, what spiritual practices we could incorporate today that could help us limit our sense of pridefulness. Here's the number to dial. There's plenty of time to get on the show, but gotta hurry. Okay, 833-288-3986. Plenty of time, but you got to hurry.
Indeed. Love to have you on the program. And we do have Maria in San Antonio listening on our good friends at Guadalupe Radio Network. Hello, Maria. Thanks for calling.
Hello. Thank you. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes,
hello,
just fine. Hi, Maria.
Just fine. Yep.
Great. Well, I just was thinking as you were talking, I don't know, but growing up a lot, I was just a very negative thinking kid. And I remember something that helped me a lot personally in high school, which maybe not now, today is not really the best thing, but it just helped me a lot change my way of thinking as far as I know it's a Christian show on that's something about elaborated and not a lot on positive thinking and that you were a special child of God and don't let anything hold you back. And back in those days, I needed that a lot because I was just a negative thinking kid. But thinking back nowadays, I'm in my middle ages here. Thinking back, I mean, I think I would have just matured a lot not quicker, but a lot more thoroughly, I should say, as a Christian, Catholic Christian, if I would have just been just a different kind of, learning really the faith as being a Christian as it should be, as far as like you have been discussing, putting God first in everything. And I think that would have just personally, helped me a lot out, this maturing as a Christian, as opposed to thinking of me as a special child of God, me that I can do everything because God is with me, and me that everything's going to be a great, wonderful day because I have God in my heart. Isn't that kind of a false pride in a way, that you think of yourself so much as having God on your side? Did you really forget about God? I don't know. It's hard to elaborate. Let's hear about, I don't know. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think you're touching upon a couple of very important things. One is the power of our thoughts. And Debbie and I are part of a life coaching team at standtalltoday.com. And I'm sure, Debbie, you would heartily agree with this, that we have to have a healthy outlook in our minds of who we are. And it's not so much who we are as building ourselves up. But you were talking about, Maria, you are a child of God. You're a special child of God. These things, I think, are very healthy thoughts, as long as they don't lead us to say, to get into, the sin of pride. But I think what do you think, Debbie? I think it's okay to have those healthy thoughts about who you are.
Self-image?
Yes, self-image, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Maria, I think there's a balance. There's a healthy self-image is what God would want us to have, being temples of the Holy Spirit and being created in the image and likeness of God. God wants us to have life, to have it to the full. He knows every hair on our head, so we're created very uniquely by God. And so, yes, the healthy image, I think, is very important. It's when, in my humble opinion, it's when we cross over that line where we believe the power is coming from us. The power does not come from it. We can lose. I mean, look at us. We could lose everything. Look at people who with natural disasters. They lose everything overnight. Okay, it was out of their control, right? Okay, so that should show us that we must, if we have a developed relationship with God, we must rely on God, because that is where our strength comes from, and that is where we are able to endure things and persevere. And I think I think sometimes, Maria, the reason why we don't do that is because it's admitting that we are less than, and it's such a false idea that has been put upon us. Everybody's trying to climb up to the top of the pack, right? They're trying to climb up. I can speak better than you, or I can, write this great, dissertation on this. And everybody's trying to impress others. For what? Okay, our gifts come from God. They go through us and they go back to God. And when we realize that, there's a freedom in it. What do you think, Maria?
I think that is great, and a reason I thought of that too is I'm right now listening to a series of talks. I'm glad you have a program that's Stand Tall. I'm with this other one called Heart Work with the Daughters of St. Paul. I love Sister Catherine Hermes. She is doing a talk right now on the false self, and she happened to mention a Thomas. I don't know too much about Thomas Merton, but she said that he was, got into being a monk, a priest. I'm not sure what his background is. But anyway, he realized, he wanted to get away from all the things of the world and be this perfect, person serving God, that eventually he found out that he had put all these things behind him, but really they were hidden. There were a lot of things inside of him, pride, one of them, and other things that he had not faced. And he happened to realize that after he became religious. So I don't know, maybe somebody can look up Thomas Merton and his writings. I'm not too familiar with him, but I just happened to hear that, and I was just so fascinated by, wow, a religious coming to realize that, he's not perfect. Right. I mean, to me, that's incredible. I just thought that was wow. So I need to look up on that more. But yeah, that is just incredible to me.
Well, and when you think about it, what are the holy men and women who withdraw from the world? What is the one thing they are seeking? They're seeking perfection, not in the sense of being prideful, but in a sense of rooting out the sin in their lives and growing in the virtues and eliminating the vices. And that could take a lifetime. It could take a lifetime, and so many of them write about how along that journey, and even at the moment of their last breath, the devil is just right there trying to cause them to stumble, even after a lifetime of attaining holiness and great sanctity and virtue. So, Maria, thank you for your call. We are grateful for that. We appreciate you joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Let's see, what is our plug for today?
I'm familiar with some of Thomas Merton's writings. We actually studied a few in our theology classes, and it's interesting. The only thing I would just say though is when you're looking for a special work that could help you move along your spiritual journey, just make sure it's solid, It's very authentically Catholic. I'm just saying because there's a lot of pride, ego books out there that somehow they have like a Christian slant to it. And so you want to be really cautious and just careful about picking through what is proper. And I would stick with mainstream, very, very. And I'm not saying anything about any of the authors, but I know there's a lot of pride and ego books out there. So I would just say be careful because some can kind of, I don't know, they kind of move into Eastern thought, and it's just interesting.
Right. Yeah, I was going to make that point too. The early writings of Thomas Merton were very, very solid, from what I understand, and my understanding of some of his later writings is he did mix in Eastern non-Christian spirituality, and I believe that he died when he was visiting. I don't know, was it a Buddhist monastery or some Eastern form of religion? So, but he's got some great stuff earlier in his life. So I agree with you, Debbie. We got to really make sure that we're spiritually dining on the really solid meat and potatoes. Absolutely.
Well, absolutely, because I actually know a lot of Catholics, really strong Catholics, that have read various works on the ego and the mind, and they talked about karma and all this kind of stuff, and they actually moved into forms of Buddhism very easily, and they were very devout Catholics. So you need to, you have to be really careful because that's how easy we can slide, off of center, which is, I'm a strong believer in everything authentically Catholic. Right.
Well, speaking of authentically Catholic, you can get Church Pop in your inbox, your email inbox every day. Church Pop, P-O-P, features new online Christian content that's fun, informative, and inspirational. You can find it on Snapchat, Instagram, and on the web at churchpop.com, and it's a service of EWTN.
I love Church Pop. In fact, if you go on my Facebook page and try, I'm accepting more friends. So look up Debbie Georgiani, friends, quote unquote, but I'm accepting more friends. And I always repost all the Church Pop stuff. I love it. Okay, Ann in Lafayette, Louisiana on Christ Our King Radio. You've been waiting so patiently. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. I wanted to share a novena. I've really been wanting to call this in for over a week now, and I never just had the opportunity to do it except for today. And it deals with all of the topics that you all have covered. It's called the Surrender Novena, and I've been doing it for weeks now, and it has helped me tremendously dealing with all of these things that we see going on in our country as Catholics and as Americans. It was given to us by a Father Rutolo, who actually seemed to have a connection with Padre Pio. And this priest, was a modern-day priest. He died November 19th of 1970. So, during most of our lifetimes. But the most beautiful thing about this 9-day novena is it's almost like God talking directly to you. And at the end of it, each day is different. You're asked to say, "Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything." And, you're to say it 10 times and then wait the next day and just pray on that. I encourage everybody to look into this novena because it has taken a tremendous load off of me. And as far as pride, one of the funny things about the novena is it talks about, God saying, "You're trying to tell me how to do my job. Let me take care of it." So it puts you in your place, and it really gives God the reins to do his will and for us just to sit back and trust in him. So that's what I needed to share with you today.
Well, Ann, we are so glad you did, and you maybe missed some of our first week of shows in January of this year, and that's okay. We forgive you for that. But Ann, we pushed the Surrender Novena, the exact novena you're talking about. Yeah, we did. We at the beginning of every year, Jerry and I pick some devotional that we really think will help us, the Take Two family, to move along. And we mentioned it in January, and then we love it. We absolutely love the Surrender Novena. And then COVID hit, and we really haven't mentioned it too many times. But then you brought it up, so we must believe that is the Holy Spirit, and working through you to remind us to get out our books and to pray that wonderful novena. We wholeheartedly agree with you. It is a game changer. It's a spiritual game changer.
I've ordered the cards, and I started giving them out. And I just have to keep reordering because I have so many people that feel like they need it. So that's kind of been one of my missions, to help my friends with it along. And one of the beauties I think I've seen out of this, not that it's my surrender, but in the state of Louisiana, we actually have an issue that's coming up as an amendment pushed forth by a Democratic leader, believe it or not, to love life. It's called the Love Life Amendment. And I really feel like this is God pushing us through where we need to be.
Beautiful. Yeah, as Debbie said, we do know. I know that Debbie prayed the novena, the Surrender Novena, and so did I. And it is presented to us and to the church by Father Dolindo Rutolo, who is in Naples. He was in Naples, Italy, died in 1970, and is actually he is a candidate for beatification in the church right now. So. And it's the one thing that you repeat every day is, Jesus, you take care of everything. And that is a great way to not to humble ourselves, because it just helps us realize that we are not in control, as you said, Ann. So thank you so much, Ann, for bringing that to our attention today on the program.
Thank you. I love your show.
Oh, thanks. You're very kind.
Thanks, Ann. We love you too. Thank you. Okay, Jerry, do we have time? Can we rush to Gloria? And you need to mention Lulu. Lulu posted something really beautiful we need to share real quickly.
Yeah, well, that's going to take a couple of minutes here. So hold on, Gloria, and we will try to get to you in just a minute. But Lulu on YouTube, she says, I like Mother Teresa's ways to stay humble. Speak as little as possible about yourself. Keep busy with your own affairs and not those of others. Avoid curiosity. Do not interfere in the affairs of others. Accept small irritations with good humor. Do not dwell on the faults of others. Accept censures even if unmerited. Give in to the will of others. Accept insults and injuries. Accept contempt, being forgotten and disregarded. Be courteous and delicate even when provoked by someone. Do not seek to be admired and loved. Do not protect yourself behind your own dignity. Give in discussions even when you are right, and choose always the more difficult task.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Lulu. Thank you so much. Wow. We need to, can you copy and paste that? I want that. Don't erase that.
Yeah, I'll put it on the
yeah, that is
take2show.com website.
Okay, cool. So we have about a minute and a half. 2 minutes. Gloria in Michigan, EWTN app, first time caller. I'm so sorry, Gloria. We're racing against the clock.
That's okay. I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. We were talking about pride and how it's kind of an internal thing that we all have in our thinking and so on. And I think that for me, what I'm trying to do is to recognize God has given all of us talents, so we've all got things we're strong in. So trying to recognize what other people's talents are. You build a good team by building a team of people with different talents that come together, work together, and do great things. And I think that can start right in the family, at home, with your children, in housekeeping, or anything that you want the children to be able to do, to be able to point out to them what their talents are, each of them having different talents, so they can each see that we all have the different talents, but when we come together and do something, we make it easy, we make it fun, we make it successful. And that we're only a part. So, yes, we've got talents. We can praise God and thank Him for those. Mm-hmm. But we need to that we will also be recognizing others, and that we're only good as a team together.
I love that, Gloria. Love it, absolutely. We can't do it all on our own. So well spoken, well said, Gloria in Michigan. Thank you. We all love those special gifts, and we really need to help our children, Debbie. That's a great point she makes, in recognizing what their true gifts are, not being prideful about that, but also recognizing the gifts in other people.
So true. So true. Thank you, Gloria. Tomorrow's our unscripted show, so if you'd like to revisit this, please do so tomorrow on our next great unscripted. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.
Dr. Ray Guarendi, making a commitment to the why.